lunch. Nom, 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 nom.
Good morning, Sac City. Yeah, I needed to fix my mic there. Good morning, Sac City. Welcome in to another edition of the Sac City podcast. I am your host, the one and only Vinny Milani, joined as always by my best friend in the whole entire world. He is Aaron, the Mukesiah Mukes. It is a beautiful October 17th morning here in the city. Episode 101 is about to kick off here. We've got a lot of action to talk about in week 6. We've got our headlines, we've got our injury report. We're going to dive into some notes here this morning. Aaron, how you feeling about Sunday's games? I know your Cowboys were in primetime action against the Eagles in a close contest.
It was good. It was good. Good weekend of football. I think some things were. I think we learned some things, but I think we also are still up in the air on some other things, and I'm sure we'll get all into it. But it was, it's always a good day when you can sit and watch football and it'd be competitive football. Like that's the thing that I think we talk about every week here is how competitive the NFL is, and it shows every week.
Yeah, let me actually ask you a question. I'm going to go off script here and surprise you for something. You talk about what we learned.
It's a surprise. I haven't read the doc at all, so.
That's fine. There really isn't that much of a doc anyways. But so you talk about what we learned, and we're going to discuss that later on, like what our big takeaways from Sunday's action was. But there's 3 teams in the NFL right now, one undefeated team in the Philadelphia Eagles. They're 5-0 right now, or 6-0 right now, sorry. And they're looking good. The Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs are on another level that we think that they're on. They're great teams. And there's really 3 great teams in this league right now. And then there's the rest. Who's the 4th best team in the NFL right now?
Who said those are my top 3?
Well, your power rankings did last week.
Yeah, I don't know that they're that same this week. When you ask who the 4th best team is in the NFL, first of all, that's a trick question. I don't know. Nobody knows. But I also don't think it matters. I think you could put a number of teams there and be right on given weeks, and then you could put a number of different teams there and be right on another week. Like the NFL is very good about not really revealing itself until the end of the year, and that's really kind of what we have here. I think when you look at the best teams in the NFL, I will say this: I think there's hands down 2 teams in the NFL that I believe can win a Super Bowl right now, and that is the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills. I'm not even ready to put Philly on that level yet. We will get into that later, why I do still have concerns about Philly. They got a big win against Dallas, but I also could put Dallas up there. Like people are going to look at me crazy and say I'm a Cowboys fan, and I am. But I watched that game last night, and they did not play well in the first half. They turned the ball over twice. They got stopped at 4th down in their own territory. And you look up in the 3rd and 4th quarter, and it's 20-17. And a drive really away from the Dallas Cowboys taking the lead. When you don't have your starting quarterback, things change. So you had mentioned this a few times about Philly, and you kept asking me, and I kept kind of deflecting away from it. Like I really wasn't thinking about it or really caring about it because of what they were doing and who they were playing. But that lull that they get in, when they look great for like a quarter, and then they get in this lull where they can't move the ball, Jalen Hurts is inaccurate, and these other teams just haven't been able to come back and actually finish the job. But I saw it again last night, and I'm like, you know what? Outside of that second quarter, there really wasn't anything special about that offense. They had the one really, really good drive in the 3rd quarter after Dallas came out and scored that I thought was big. Right after Dallas scored a touchdown, Philly came out and drove the ball. But that's the team. That's that running game. They didn't rely on Jalen Hurts. When they lose sight of that, they are a different football team, and they're going to run into somebody. It's going to happen that is going to capitalize on that, and they're going to win the game. And that could have been Dallas last night. They didn't because, again, Cooper Rush turned the ball over too much. But so I think there's 2 teams in the NFL that are the Super Bowl teams. I think it's Kansas City, and I think it's Buffalo.
Yeah, so maybe that line is those teams, and then everyone else at this point, even with the Eagles being 6-0. You mentioned the fact that they kind of let off the gas. They were up in this game. They were up 20-0. They led 20-0, but then were outscored 17-6 to end the game. And they only averaged just under 4 yards per play. So weren't like really that dominant and that efficient. And the Cowboys defense is great, arguably the best in the NFL. But like you said, they're going to have to finish the job, and maybe it is just those two teams, and then everybody else in the NFL. We'll talk about your power rankings on Wednesday's show and see who truly is 1, 2, 3, and the rest of the NFL. But let's get into some morning headlines to start off our day.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Well, it wasn't the absolute bang-bang shootout that we thought it would be in the Sunday afternoon matchup between the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. The Bills did defeat them, though. The Bills did defeat the Chiefs on the road 24-20 in a game that we all were pretty much everyone's eyes were all on Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, the two MVP candidates, the two MVP favorites this year. Josh Allen, though, gets the job done. He's the first starting quarterback to beat Patrick Mahomes twice at Arrowhead Stadium. Aaron, what were your – I didn't even get to do it. I didn't even do it. We talk about headlines, and I saw this note, and I had to put it into a graphic. Headlines right here. Buffalo Bills. They got the job done. We picked against them. They come back with a vengeance. They get a win in a game where – Aaron, you on Friday said it wasn't that big of a deal for this game in terms of where it stood for the rest of the season. Bills get their revenge, even if it's the slight little revenge here. What were your takeaways from this Bills game? We'll do a full recap later, but just some instant reactions to the Bills knocking off the Chiefs.
First of all, I would disagree. Game could be called a shootout. I think what happened was, does this narrative change if it's 31-27? Because Patrick Mahomes turned the ball over in the red zone. Josh Allen turned the ball over in the red zone, and nobody scored in the first quarter. But the yardage was there. Buffalo had almost 500 yards of offense. Kansas City had 400 almost. I think the turnovers, a couple of negative plays changes the narrative about whether it was a shootout or not. But this is always going to be a shootout because it always has the two best quarterbacks in football in Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. To your point, yeah, I wanted to watch this game because it is so entertaining to watch these two teams play. It's great football. That's really what it is. It's not about whether it's 17-10 or 24-20. It's watching these two quarterbacks play. Are they flawless? No, nobody's flawless. Like, Josh Allen made mistakes, but Josh Allen played better than Patrick Mahomes did last night. But we've seen it before, so it's not surprising to me. The one thing I'm not going to do is sit here today and overreact to this. Last year, the Bills beat the Chiefs 38-20 in the regular season. Why is today any different than last year? The last 4 times these teams have played, it's been in Kansas City. So it's not uncommon for Josh Allen to go in there and beat him. He did it last year. So I don't look at it as where I'm measuring these two teams at. These are the two best teams in football. These are going to be the two teams in the playoffs that people do not want to play. Josh Allen played great. Patrick Mahomes struggled at the end. He had a chance to go and win it. He misread, threw a pick, game over. Like, okay, it happens. I think the only thing this did for me is, first of all, I loved watching it. Second is, if Buffalo is tied with Kansas City at the end of the season, I do believe that it's much more important for Buffalo to have home field advantage than it is Kansas City. So
I agree.
I think that atmosphere in Buffalo, and I know Kansas City is a crazy place to play, but I think the atmosphere in Buffalo in an AFC championship game could provide a difference maker in those two. And I think that would be the only thing that I take away from this game, is if it happens to go down to a tiebreaker and Buffalo has it. But other than that, it was just a great game and it was fun to watch.
Yeah, I think something that I take away from this game, and I mentioned this on Friday's show, we talked about who on defense was going to be who's going to step up, and we joked around about how I did pick the Chiefs, but my defensive player to step up and who should be noticeable in this game, it was Von Miller, and he did just that here with 2 sacks, one coming late in the game. He was a difference maker once again in the big-time game, showing why you went out and got your Von Miller. It happened in the Rams game, and now it happens again in another big-time matchup, this time against the Chiefs. 2 sacks in this game, his second multi-sack game this season, his third straight game with a sack. Von Miller has been a difference maker for this Bills team, and really proving that, I mean, in a game where all 3 of our predictions had both teams scoring 30 points, both teams only score, do not pass 25 points, I should say. The defenses, they looked good. Kiri Elam had a pick in this game. I thought this was a good defensive battle and showed these teams are more than just offense. We'll cover the rest of it, though, in our matchup previews that you guys will be able to see on our YouTube page. One other headline I want to bring up here as well from Week 6 scoreboard is all the upsets. This was upset city yesterday with these big-time teams going down, including the Green Bay Packers falling to the New York Jets 27-10, the Giants defeating the Ravens, the Steelers beating the Patriots.
Steelers played the Buccaneers.
The Steelers beating the Buccaneers. That should say Bucks. It says everywhere else it says Bucks, but
you got Tom Brady happy.
Yeah, I did get Tom Brady happy. The Steelers defeat the Bucks, the Seahawks defeating the Cardinals. It was upset city for these 5 matchups here. Aaron, which upset stands out to you the most, though, for the losing team maybe firing the alarms?
I think there's a couple there, but I think the biggest one is the Jets-Packers, because if you look at the rest of those games, outside of the Arizona game, which is a division game, none of those games were teams at home. They were all on the road. And I think we need to stop thinking because you're a good team or we think you're a good team that you're just going to go into a place and beat a team. Like, these are NFL players that get paid, that play at home in home stadiums, and home field advantage is real. You go play somewhere that you're not familiar with in the heat or in the cold or wherever. You're not comfortable. You're sleeping in hotels that you don't normally sleep. Like this, it is a real thing. The travel, it's a real thing. It's not fake. It's not made up. The numbers, the history of the NFL back it up. Home teams have an advantage. Simple as that. So when you look at that, you look at some of those losses, you say, okay, maybe, some upsets happen, and then it's worse when it's on the road because you have to travel. But Green Bay was at home in a sloppy game, which they're used to playing in, and their offense still looks like crap. That's really what it boils down to. It looks like crap. It looks like absolute crap, and it looks like they're broken, and it looks like Davante Adams had more of an impact than they thought. And now I don't know if I'm buying it. I'll be honest. I don't know that it's Davante Adams-less Green Bay Packers offense is the reason why they're struggling this way. But I do know that that's what it looks like. That's what the casual fan is going to sit there and analyze and say, well, it's all because of Davante Adams. But I could point to some not being there. There is a lot of things that I can point to that defense being soft as Charmin still. I don't understand it. They are so soft. And I think it's a mentality. I think it's a coach mentality more so than it is the players. It's the scheme that they are running. They play so soft. They're sitting back on receivers. They're not aggressive. I watched teams like the 49ers, and I know they didn't have the greatest day yesterday, but I watched teams like the 49ers, the Dallas Cowboys, the Buffalo Bills, even the Chiefs at times when they lock in and they're so physical and aggressive, and the way they're flying around over the football or towards the football, it's completely the opposite with the Green Bay Packers. They look soft, and with all that talent, it's inexcusable. It goes to coaching. So there's just a lot of things wrong with the Green Bay Packers right now. And for a team that talent-wise should be up there at the top of the league right now, they're not. They lost to the Jets, and it was an ugly loss. I don't care about the conditions in Lambeau. I don't care about none of that. They let a rookie come in there and disrespect him by grabbing cheese and walking out of the.
Oh man, that's all. I want
video.
Yeah, when we have our recap videos, that's going to be in the clips. I don't care if it was clipped or whatever. That is going to be in the clips somehow, some way. Sauce Gardner taunting the Green Bay Packer faithful just with the cheese head, and that was special. But is it sounding it's not necessarily sounding the panic alarm for the Packers in the sense of them missing the playoffs, but
it's panic time for the Packers.
But
you can't lose to the Giants and the Jets in back-to-back weeks and not be panicking.
No, I'm not saying it's not a panic time for them, but like, you think they still make the playoffs though, right? It's just once they make the playoffs, it's scary from there because we're seeing in these games that this team isn't as good as right now. They're not obviously not number one in the NFC North, so they're not going to be. They might not win the NFC North.
Not a playoff team right now.
Do you think that stays put? Like you think this is. So basically what I'm
saying is you can't lose to the Giants and the Jets and then me have hope that you're going to go beat good teams.
No. But that's where I'm getting at here. I'm not saying that they're going to go and beat good teams. And this is what we talk about with like teams like, and obviously the Packers have not been on this level before, but we talk about like teams like the Bucks or the Chiefs or any other those other great teams. We're like, okay, their season doesn't start until the playoffs. So yes, they can lose these games, but once they get in the playoffs, that's when it matters. Obviously, there's a fear of once they get in the playoffs, though. Once they get in the playoffs, so there's the fear. Is this now where change?
No. Those teams aren't losing to teams like this. They're not losing games like this. The Chiefs, even last year during the struggle, was not losing games like this. Let me ask. I'll put it in a better sense. These are the next 6 games for the Green Bay Packers. The Commanders. Okay, you want to give them a win? Sure. The Bills. Not picking them. The Lions. Okay, you want to give them a win? Sure. Then the Cowboys. Not picking them. The Titans. I don't know. Eagles. I'm not picking them. Like, at what point? Then they finish the season with the Rams, the Dolphins, the Vikings. I'm not picking them in those games. Like, and we'll get to the Dolphins on how the difference is with Tua versus not having Tua. Like now we really should appreciate Tua. But I'm not picking Green Bay in these games. These toss-up games don't get to go to Green Bay the way they've looked. So when you say, oh, they're guaranteed to make the playoffs, no, they're not. They're not guaranteed to make the playoffs. I don't think they're a guaranteed lock. With the way Minnesota's played for the most part and been able to at least win games. How they've done it doesn't matter. They've found ways to win games. It might not always be pretty with some of these other teams, when the Chiefs are struggling, when the Bills might be struggling, or the Rams might be struggling. But if they win the game, it's different than losing the game. That's the thing is Green Bay's not winning these games. They got blown out by the Jets. They gave up a huge lead to the Giants. And yes, the Giants might be showing that they're better than people think. But again, you can't lose those games. You got blown out by Minnesota. It's not like they're losing close games. They're getting blown out by these teams. And it's not. And the offense is the question. It really, I mean, I talked about their soft defense, but when you're scoring 14 and barely beating the Bucks, and we see the Bucks now have some flaws as well. And I will tell you, I'm panicking on them as well. The 10 against the Jets, these are problems. 22 against the Giants. This is not the same Green Bay team. It's not the same Green Bay offense. You have to be concerned about Green Bay. And I'm an Aaron Rodgers truther. I love him. I think he's one of the greatest quarterbacks that's ever played this game. But you can't look at the evidence and say you're not worried.
That's really where I was trying to get at here with that is like, we're used to them. And there's the saying all the time of like, these seasons don't start until the playoffs. But now we're in question of the Green Bay Packers even making the playoffs. And that's going to be talked about today. And we talk about overreactions. That's one of our talking points of what's an overreaction on Sunday. That might not be an overreaction. That might be a right on the bar reaction that should be fair for the Packers. Their loss to the New York Jets here matches the largest win by any team over Aaron Rodgers at Lambeau Field in his career when he plays the entire game. 27-10 for the Jets. We'll talk more about that game in a little bit, but you said one thing that you want to touch on now, or you want to save it for Bucks talk. We talked about the underdogs winning. I did change it. The Steelers defeated the Bucks 20-18. Is it panic alarm for the Bucks? You want to save it for recaps or where you want?
You should definitely be worried about the Buccaneers, but in a different sense. They're not going to lose the division. Okay, so that's the problem. That's really what this boils down to. See, the difference between the Packers and the Bucks is the Bucks don't have a real threat in the NFC South. And I get it. Atlanta's playing hard and they've won against the 49ers, and we'll get into that game eventually. But the Buccaneers have a pretty clear path to winning their division. It's a lot easier than going against Minnesota. And so they don't have to worry about a wild card. They don't have to worry about those teams that are going to be on the fringe. And Green Bay will have to do that if they fall too far behind the Minnesota Vikings. And I think that's the issue. So when I say the panic button for Green Bay, that panic button is a lot louder for Green Bay than it is for the Buccaneers. Yes, the Bucs should be panicking, but can they get it right? Yes, they can get it right. They have the luxury of losing a game like this and still being, in first place in a division. Like that's a real thing. They're still in first place in a division that they haven't played very well in because their division is so bad. So you have to take the circumstances around that team as to how loud you want to sound that alarm. But that alarm is sounding. It's just how loud is it sounding? Maybe not so loud right now, but it could be in the next few weeks, depending on what happens with Tom Brady and that offensive line and that offense in particular. They held the Steelers to field goal after field goal after field goal, and their offense couldn't do anything. And it really comes down to Tom Brady and moving the ball. And I think that they obviously struggled with it, but they have to get back, get on track. And I think Tom Brady has to play a role. He has to take some of the blame for their offense just because we give him all the credit all the time.
Yeah. And we'll transition into a little overreactions. We talked about maybe the Packers one is not an overreaction. And I see in the comments here, shout out everyone in the comments. We've got two comments, one from Divine Comedy here, saying Bailey Zappi, Offensive Rookie of the Year, ? And then Bailey coming in here saying Brady is showing his age, I think. These are comments, not necessarily, now I'm not calling them overreactions, but these are comments that could be viewed as overreactions, and definitely in terms of Brady showing his age or Bailey Zappi being Offensive Rookie of the Year. Are these overreactions, or what is an overreaction from yesterday that you're going to say, okay, let's pump the brakes on? I know everyone's freaking out over it, but let's pump the brakes.
Well, I will say that the Bailey Zappi Offensive Rookie of the Year has to be kind of the overreaction, just because assuming Mac Jones comes back healthy, he's the starter. Now, if you want to talk about after the fact, after we find out that Mac Jones doesn't come back as a starter, then that would be wild, right? But as of right now, there's been no indication of that. And this is what I said before. I don't hear anybody calling for Mac Jones' job. Has anybody on any network called for Mac Jones' job yet? I haven't heard it. If you've heard it, please show me the clip, because I'm waiting for it. Because Dak Prescott, after 2 games, like Bailey Zappi, where he won both games, or really a game where he came in and played well and then won the next game, and they've won both. Where's the he should be replaced? Where's the he's a winner? Where's all that stuff at for Mac Jones? Because I hear it all the time for Dak Prescott. So I don't want to call him the Offensive Rookie of the Year. I think that's a stretch. I think that award right now goes to Dameon Pierce. And then you still have to worry about other guys coming into the fold. Kenneth Walker had a good day.
I think Breece Hall has something to say about it too.
Breece Hall has had a good couple of weeks. Those guys right now would be the leaders of the pack. But again, is there time to change it? And at the quarterback position, are you going to get the benefit of the doubt? Absolutely. If Bailey Zappi has to play another few more weeks and they go and they win 2 more games and he's 4-0, and they look at Mac Jones and say, man, this guy is just like this guy. And
dude,
he's winning.
I think when it comes down to it for the Patriots, and maybe you can pump the brake, tell me to pump the brakes if this may be an overreaction, but you said it during the offseason. And I don't know if you said it jokingly or whatever, but we said that we could see Bill Belichick, like, do not be surprised if Bill Belichick starts Bailey Zappi over Mac Jones at some point during this season. I think after what we're seeing from Bailey Zappi, and he's not playing bad. 24 of 34, 309 yards,
great
touchdowns. Yeah, he completed
played great yesterday.
Over 60% completions, first career game with 300 passing yards and multiple passing touchdowns. First rookie Patriots quarterback in franchise history to win each of his first 2 starts. Bailey Zappi is doing things that Mac Jones didn't do. And we say that it was an overreaction for like people saying Cooper Rush should start over Dak Prescott just because he was winning games. Well, Bailey Zappi's winning games and also being a difference maker in these games. So what you said in the offseason about Bailey Zappi coming in to replace Mac Jones doesn't seem as crazy, because I tell you this, if the Patriots are battling for a playoff spot by season's end and Mac Jones is the reason why they're not competing for a playoff spot, Bailey Zappi will play games to finish the season off for the Patriots to try and get them into a spot to get into the, like, Bill Belichick doesn't want to miss that. Bill Belichick's not at a point of his career where he's willing to say, okay, we're young, it's okay to miss the playoffs, we're building. He wants to be in the playoffs. He wants to be competing for a Super Bowl. That's where he's at in his career. All right, let's go into some.
I think that the key there is, if it was a different coach, maybe. I think Belichick does not care about a personal attachment to anyone, and that's the biggest thing. Is he's cut great players. He had it out with Tom Brady, who's the GOAT. He benched Drew Bledsoe for Tom Brady when there was, a big controversy about that. When they went on to win their Super Bowls, Bailey Zappi is doing something that I don't think Mac Jones does. And I think he pushes the ball down the field. He forces stuff, and he's not just going to play it safe. And I think there's something to be said about that when you're being successful at it. So, I did say that I thought at some point in time, Belichick could look at Mac Jones and say, you know what, I'm going to go with Bailey Zappi instead. And, hey, you never know. That could happen.
It's becoming more and more likely to happen, especially after the performance on Sunday from Bailey Zappi. Let's push to more topics, more chatter, more segments here regarding Week 6 as we kind of round out this show here. What did we learn from Week 6 after not just the upsets, but the winning teams, the losing teams? What's one thing that you learned from Week 6?
I still think there's I still think there's a lot of bad football being played by some teams. I struggle with this question because I'm smart. I didn't learn anything. I've watched football long enough. Like, I think a lot of this stuff is very common, but the average fan is going to say, oh my God, I didn't know this team was good. I would say, let's talk about the Giants. Let's just say that. Let's just talk about the Giants, because I think that's where everybody is kind of stuck. Like, oh my God, they went and beat Green Bay. Now they beat Baltimore. I think the Giants are a good football team, but I want to say this, and I got to find clips, but I told people this could happen with the Giants. I told people this. I said that this roster is not devoid of talent. The question had been, can the quarterback not fuck it up? And that was really what Brian Daboll was there to do. And Brian Daboll has done an excellent job with Daniel Jones. He's not a franchise guy, and I'll say that. I don't think they can win a Super Bowl with Daniel Jones. But what he's done is he's kept him from turning the football over. He's turned Daniel Jones into a turnover-less quarterback, and in turn, you have a great defense with what started Patrick Graham, now Wink Martindale, and you're able to win games because you can run the football and not turn the football over. It's the Dallas formula for 4 weeks. It's why they were winning games. Look at the teams and how they're winning. Running the football, game managing, playing good defense. The separator between those good teams and those elite teams, what's the difference? It's the quarterback. That's always the difference. It's always the deciding factor. It was the deciding factor in the Super Bowl. Like, the difference was Matt Stafford. Like, he came, like, we could talk about Cooper Kupp being great, and Aaron Donald was already great, and the defense, but Matt Stafford is what put the Rams over the top. It's the quarterback. So with Daniel Jones playing within himself, Brian Daboll has done that. He's done an excellent job with Daniel Jones, and you mix that with that defense. I think that is what we learned, that the Giants are a really good football team. And I will find that short to put out or to have AJ put out, because I remember, I don't know when it was, but I told people that it's Daniel Jones. That was the problem.
You're a great producer. We'll be on the hunt for that right now while we discuss everything else. I promise I'll get it to you. Okay. Yeah, that's the thing. That's the Giants. The like, every week I feel like the Giants are going to be the team to talk about, because we just do, like, at what point do we start? Like, are you at that point right now where you're buying the Giants? Like, because, like,
I'm buying what they are. I'm not buying them as a contender. No, I'm not buying them as a contender because they got Daniel Jones.
All right.
You have to be able to score to win in this league. It doesn't matter
fair.
how great your defense is. You got to be able to score, and they can't score. Like,
That's fair.
Even in that game yesterday, Like they were struggling to score, and like they got helped by Lamar Jackson. He didn't play well, and if they don't get those turnovers, then they can't score. That's the problem. Is their offense can't just score at will or push the ball down the field when they need to, and that is what's going to cost them the games that matter. The games against the Chiefs, the games against the Cowboys. That's the difference. That's really the difference between the Giants and the Cowboys right now.
I think where they're at. I think where they're at. Hey man, watch out! Ron Rivera got killed for saying that. Watch out there, man. I joke. We talk about the Vikings. They're 5-1 right now. They're quietly 5-1 right now. They've been winning their games in close matchups. They've been finding ways to win. That's what the Giants are doing. Every game this season that the Giants have been in has been a one possession game. Every single their 5-1 record. Giants are 5-1 in one possession games this season. That's every single one of their games being decided by 8 points or less. Like that's been what it is. They're just finding ways to win. That's what we're at with like these teams. It's not that they're doing something that's like blowing people out or blowing people out of the water and saying, okay, this team is good. They're just finding ways to win, and good teams find ways to win. That's kind of like what it is. They're not like, yeah, you get it.
The NFL is a one-score game, man. Like we talk about the blowouts, but most NFL games come down to one possession. We all watch it on. Do we not watch it on Sunday every week with the Red Zone channel? When all of a sudden the games, continue to get close at the end, and we're like, wow, these games were blowouts. It's one-score game in the NFL. Yeah. That's what you have to win those games. Yes. I don't know what you asked. I was just basically saying the NFL is a one-score game.
I didn't ask anything. I knew you froze, and I wasn't going to try and overload it.
I do like this comment, though. Arthur Smith has this team playing from being somebody that's I don't want to say in the building, but in that building a lot. I've been at a number of home games already. I've talked to Arthur Smith before. His mindset has been the same, and it's never wavered. And I'll be honest, I didn't believe it. But it hasn't wavered. Since the beginning of the offseason, he said, we are going to be a competitive football team, and I will give the job to whoever's the most competitive. And he hasn't wavered from that. He's like, we are going to battle. We are going to be right there. And they are the only team in the NFL that's 6-0 against the spread. They have played a number of close games, and they've been in every single football game. And for a team that's less talented, and I don't care what anybody says, they are less talented than most of the teams they are playing. They are finding ways to keep things close and to go in and win games. And Arthur Smith right now, it's never a popular thing to give a coach of the year to the guy that goes 500, which Arthur Smith very well could do this year. But to me, he's the coach of the year. He is the guy that has done the most with the least. Nick Sirianni's undefeated, but yeah, they went out and bought a championship team. That's what they did, right? They went out and added those players that they needed, and then he coaches better because he has more talent. The difference between that and Arthur Smith is Arthur Smith does not have the talent. Arthur Smith is fighting an uphill battle, and yet his team looks like a team that's right in the thick of it, and really they shouldn't be. So right now, he's my coach of the year, and I don't care what anybody says. You can say it's Sirianni, but again, players win games in this league. You have to have players and talent. Arthur Smith is somehow doing it without that, and that's impressive.
Yeah, no, they were able to. They're simplifying the game. They're simplifying games on offense at least, because this team is. They don't have a flashy quarterback. Marcus Mariota is not the best quarterback. We said he was one of the bottom quarterbacks in the league before the season started. They're another team that's finding ways to win. They've rushed for 150 plus yards again this game. They beat a very good defense, one of the best defenses in the league that we've talked about. Good week for the Falcons. Last two topics here: some winners, some losers. Biggest whiner from it says whiner on the graphic from week 6.
Biggest whiner. Biggest whiner is Alan Lazard, crybaby. He had to go knock the cheese head off of Sauce Gardner. But
Robbie,
the biggest winner.
Wait. Hold on. I'm sorry. I gotta do this because it's supposed to be in our headlines. We didn't get to it because of timing purposes. I have the biggest whiner right here. Let's just do this. The biggest whiner right here. Robbie Anderson getting kicked off the field for. You didn't see this? Did you not see any of this?
I saw it. I don't know why. I don't know why we looking at it big as winner. If what was said is true, I'm with Robbie.
I didn't hear about what was said.
And I'm with Robbie Anderson, to be honest. If what was said was true, there's a rumor or something. I think he had a soundbite that said people on the sideline or coaches or somebody was saying, "Well, we ain't making the playoffs anyway."
Oh,
I'm sorry. I'm with Robbie Anderson. If that's the mentality of my team, I'm going off too. And I guess he didn't like that. He said he's not there for that. He wants to win. He ain't about we're not making the playoffs. So again, I don't know that it was true, but I'm not jumping to any conclusions. That's why I did not even bring this up, because I want more information. If that is true and Robbie Anderson was reacting to his team saying like, "Oh, well, we're not going to make the playoffs anyways," I'm with him 100%. And, I'm not the biggest Robbie Anderson fan, but I am 100% with him if that's the reason why him and his coaches were going at it, because the coaches or the players or whoever else on that sideline was saying we ain't gonna make the playoffs anyways. Then I'm going off too, and you're gonna hear me, because I'm not for that. I don't care what our record is until I'm eliminated. I'm eliminated. So all right. So I didn't want to go there yet, but if it ends up being because he wasn't happy with getting the ball or something like that. That there's no place for that, and I would agree. But as of right now, I heard a rumor. I don't know if it's true, but if it is true, I'm definitely on the side of Robbie Anderson.
Okay, all I heard and all I saw was just him getting kicked off the field. If that's the case, then I am all on board for what you just said. Let's change up one letter here. Let's add one in. Week 6, biggest winners.
Yeah, I mean, you have to look at the Giants and the Jets over there in New York. I thought the way that they've played, specifically the Jets, man. This is protecting Zach Wilson, and you know what? There's nothing wrong with allowing him to be protected and still develop as a quarterback, and that's what they've done. They've ran the ball, they've played excellent defense, they've put their young quarterback in a good situation with good players around him to not ask him to go out and win games. Like, you have to do it on your arm, Zach, but there have been times in the fourth quarter where he's had to go out and play well against the Steelers, and he did. So shout out to Robert Saleh. He is we talked about it. I said that this could be the year that they surprise some people. They have. They're 4-2. Everybody looked at that brutal schedule, including myself, and said, "Oh, maybe it's a year early," because that schedule was so, quote, brutal. And now you look at those games and you're like, "Oh, well, it's not that brutal anymore," because the Jets are a really good football team. They're young though, so they don't I don't want to get the expectations too high. They're a young team, but you have to be impressed with what you've seen so far from the Jets. So they're my biggest winner. I could have gone a number of ways. So you could have said Seattle. They're doing the same thing. But yeah, I just think what the Jets have been doing, because the Jets have been such a laughable franchise for so long. And then you obviously kind of exclude those Rex Ryan years where they were making deep AFC title runs. It's got to be the Jets.
Yeah, I mean, this is a team that, what a 2022 for the New York Jets. We've had them as our biggest winners for the NFL draft, where they had those 3 first-round picks. They've really, all of them have looked good. Garrett Wilson's looked good. Sauce Gardner, obviously, we talked about the cheese head incident at the end of the game. He's looked good, had his interception. I believe his first interception last week. He's been shutting down receivers. This team looks great. They continue to impress. Who's been the biggest loser of week 6?
This is hard to say, but it's Miami. And the biggest loser is Miami, because I think Miami now realizes what Tua means to that team. And I think this is really Miami fans, all the people that bash Tua. Look at their team with Tua and look at their team without Tua. Nobody wants to say it. Nobody wants to talk about it. But when Jimmy G was doing it, it was, "Oh, he's just a winner." Mac Jones does it. "Oh, he's Joe Burrow. Oh, they're just winners." And Tua doesn't. It's like, well, Tua doesn't look that special. Tua doesn't look that great. He doesn't. Well, Teddy Bridgewater can't win. Skylar Thompson can't win. None of them can stay healthy. But they're 3-3 since Tua goes out on that Thursday night game. Early in that game, they haven't won. And not only have they not won, an offense that has electric weapons everywhere doesn't look like it can move the ball. I think losing Tua might have been the best thing for the Miami Dolphins. And it sucks. And I'm not saying, I know he's had injury problems and this might creep up again. He might get injured again. But I think it's showing in Miami how much they're going to appreciate Tua once he comes back and they start winning again. Because I have zero doubt that when Tua comes back next week, they will be a good football team and they will win games. I have zero doubt, really. I think this is going to show how important Tua is to the Miami Dolphins. Simple as that.
Yeah,
right now, they're a big loser. What?
Right now, the Miami Dolphins are a big loser. Yes. Yeah. That's what we, yep. They are. And this is a team last week that you said after or before the Jets game, you were like, okay, this is a team that the talent is there. You have to be able to beat these bad teams. And the Vikings aren't a bad team. The Vikings came in here and did, I mean, this is a team.
But again, they had a chance to win that game. Like Jalen Waddle, like this is why I'm not sold on the Vikings. It's because they do the same things very similar to the Eagles. Like the Vikings had that game wrapped up. How Miami gets back into it, I don't know. Miami's driving down the field to win the game. It's literally 16-10. Miami's now in Minnesota territory. Jalen Waddle, big catch across the middle, and the ball just slips out of his hands. He catches it, he's running, and the ball just falls out of his hands. And Minnesota's fortunate to pick it up, but that's to me, it's not that much different than what we saw last week. Chicago driving down the field to get right back in the game, and the ball stripped out of the receiver's hands, and Minnesota gets it. They're finding ways to win, which I appreciate and is important. But it's why I can't completely be sold on them, is because the good teams that they play against, the really legit good teams that they're going to have to play against, aren't going to do that. They are not going to make those mistakes. The Buffalo Bills, if teams get right, they're not going. The Green Bay Packers, if they ever get right, the Dallas Cowboys, the Philadelphia Eagles, they're not going to just give you the ball and you're going to get lucky that way. They're going to capitalize on your mistakes, and they're going to end up winning those games. And so I worry about that with Minnesota, but Miami was right there, and then they faltered. But they should have never been in that situation, because I still, right now, if you played that game 100 times in Miami with Tua at quarterback, I'm taking Miami majority of the time. They'll win. I believe they would win that game 60 to 70% of the time. And yesterday they didn't have that quarterback. Skylar Thompson gets hurt. They got some fourth stringer after Teddy Bridgewater comes in, and then some random guy. Who knows who's playing quarterback anymore for the Miami Dolphins. So
yeah, and it goes to show how important Tua is to this offense. Although Tyreek Hill, 177 yards on 12 receptions, Jalen Waddle, 6 receptions, 129 yards. It's not even about the stats of the productivity of the players around them. It's the ability to win football games, and that's what good quarterbacks do. We're finding out that Tua may have been a bigger difference maker to this offense than what people were giving him credit for. That does it, though, for our losers. Let's answer this note here that Bailey has saying the Ravens D should be a big loser. Any thoughts on the Ravens defense in the game against the Giants? Overreaction?
Why? Why should there? I want to know why. Like, what's the basis of that? Where's that coming from? I thought the Ravens defense played great. Lamar Jackson turned the ball over twice and they basically gave them points. I don't get that. I'm not sure where that comes from. The Giants had 238 yards of total offense. What do you mean the Ravens defense? This is what people, if you just pay attention to, they've blown through 3 games in a row. I was waiting for that. Well, how about Lamar Jackson doesn't turn the ball over in the red zone twice and give the Giants points? You can't ask a defense. It's like people today, they're like, well, I knew that Cowboys defense wasn't that good. Well, what? Like, when you have Cooper Rush throwing interceptions and your offense not moving the ball, what do you think is going to happen to your defense? Your defense can't hold them forever. The 49ers gave up 28 points to the Falcons. But does anybody want to talk about the scoop score fumble, Jimmy Garoppolo throwing 2 picks? Are the Niners defense not that good now all of a sudden? No, it's an offense that is not doing their job. Baltimore did not do their job yesterday. I don't want to hear about the comeback victory of 10 points or whatever the comeback was. Like,
it's the 2017 Jacksonville Jaguars all over again. It's the fact that your defense can only do so much. That is the case, but
I just don't like they've blown 3 leads part. Like, the score was 13-10 going into the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, you blew a 3-point lead. Oh no! Like I don't. It just doesn't make any sense. That's just somebody trying to create a narrative.
There's what I wanted for an overreaction to end the show. That does, though, for another episode of a Sac City podcast. We'll be back again live at 10 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow, covering our fantasy football talk. We will have all of our game recaps for everybody later on. Should be tomorrow, should be this week that we have our recap videos posted on our YouTube page. If you don't want to miss a single game recap, be sure to follow us and subscribe to us at the Sac City Pod on YouTube, especially. Let me restart this. Follow us and subscribe to us on YouTube at the Sac City Pod. Go to our socials. Follow us there, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Again, at Sac City Pod. Make sure you're turning on the bell on YouTube to subscribe for notifications, because we will be posting our game recaps later on for you to be able to watch your favorite team's recap. Again, ladies, gentlemen, we cover the entire NFL, but we're not like everybody else that covers the entire NFL, where we might not talk about your team as much. Well, guess what? We talk about your team as much because we do it the way you want your football coverage. We talk about your team. We talk about everybody else's team. We're an equal opportunity NFL team here. Or does that make sense? Equal opportunity.
We give shine to every NFL team. There's not an NFL team that we don't talk about. Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
It could be the worst team in the league. I got something for you. It could be the best team in the league. I got something for you.
There it is. And everything in between. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page. Turn on the bell for notifications so that you know when we post our game recaps of your team. Again, we'll be back again live at 10 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow morning, covering fantasy football and the Monday night game between the Los Angeles Chargers and the Denver Broncos. Aaron, do you want to do a little DFS action? Is that where we're going to go to end the show?
Well, you're supposed to.
Yeah, that's where we're supposed to go. As I was talking about the Monday Night Football game, I was like, wait a second, we have to do our DFS plays. So we'll get that going here. So Denver Broncos, Los Angeles Chargers, DFS. Aaron, you want to tell them how we do this while I get this set up?
Yeah, we do the captain mode. Captain scores extra points. We have 100 people that can join in. Vinny didn't even mention Thursday night when he came in third. He was so close to winning it all, but he didn't, so it doesn't matter.
Pick the wrong captain. Pick the wrong captain is what it came down to.
Yeah. But so we pick a captain, pick the rest of our team, and see who finishes highest. We haven't had anybody that we know, I don't think, have won it, have been number one yet. But we've been close. We've had somebody. Vinny finished third. I finished like 10th. You see who has the best team at the end of the day. I might go some Russell Wilson tonight. I might say he gets back on track tonight.
Hey, maybe. Let's take a look at the highest priced players. Let's take a look at everything and how everything looks. Austin Eckler I would assume Austin Eckler is the highest priced player because he's at the very, very top, but he's at the top of the captain mode. Yeah, Austin Eckler, highest priced player at 11,400, I should say. Followed by Justin Herbert, Mike Williams, and then Russell Wilson, rounding out the top most expensive players. Man. This is, I got to be honest, I haven't been thinking too much about this. I need to figure out where I want to go here. No Latavius Murray in this game? Is that a thing? Do you know?
You and Latavius Murray. He might play. I don't know.
All right, so it doesn't matter. Got it.
Doesn't matter. You're funny, though. Latavius Murray. All right. Austin Eckler's got to be in your lineup.
Yep.
Got to throw in that guy.
Take us through your thoughts here.
Throw in that guy. Got to throw in that guy. What? Oh, take us what?
Take us through your thoughts.
Oh, yeah. So I'm going pretty standard. Justin Herbert is my captain. Okay. I think you have to have Justin Herbert in your lineup. It's one of those.
One of those types of games.
One of those things. I'm big on are the Chargers at home today? Yeah. So
Yeah.
I have Justin Herbert in my lineup. He's my captain. I have Austin Eckler obviously in my lineup. I have I think I'm going to rock with Gerald Everett.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to rock with Gerald Everett. I'm rocking with Melvin Gordon. And then I have to have like a really cheap player somewhere.
I've got my really cheap player in here in my flex position. I think
my
my
hell
team
is Z Horvath?
Xander Horvath. He's their fullback. He's got like 2 touchdowns already this season. Like they've featured him like sporadically, and he always has like the games where he's just comes out of nowhere and gets in the end zone. And they like him a lot. They like Xander Horvath. Like that's a thing. I'm not just crazy about this. I'll have to look up the notes on him, but I know I've seen in games this season that Xander Horvath has been a sneaky play, especially in DFS games. So Xander Horvath,
that's absolutely disgusting.
It is, but that's what DFS plays are sometimes, you know?
No, I got one for you right here.
Okay, what you got?
I'm going to do DeAndre Carter. Hold on.
I have DeAndre Carter in my lineup.
Oh, do you?
Yep.
You mother sucker.
Yeah, my lineup.
If Latavius Murray is playing, I might get Latavius Murray.
That's where I'm at right now. If Latavius Murray's playing, that's where I am considering going. That might change. My DeAndre Carter might change to a Latavius Murray, or Xander Horvath might change to Latavius Murray if that's the case.
No, I got my team.
What you got?
I'm going Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler, Gerald Everett, Mike Boone, Melvin Gordon, both of them, and KJ Hamler.
Okay. All right.
KJ Hamler maybe gets a 60-yard deep ball.
My team is Melvin Gordon, Austin Eckler, Russell Wilson, Justin Herbert, Xander Horvath, the rookie out of I've looked up his stuff here. The rookie hailing from Mishawaka, Indiana, from Purdue. So this might be a Dylan guy here. Dylan might have seen this kid at a bowling alley one of these days. Xander Horvath, though, in my lineup, and then DeAndre Carter rounding it out. But that might change to Latavius Murray might find a way into this lineup. My note on Xander Horvath, though, in the first 2 weeks, he had receiving touchdowns in back-to-back games. So maybe there's a spark there in those games. Maybe not. They're both receiving touchdowns. So then sometimes that's all you got to find, especially when you're loaded up with big guns of Russell Wilson, Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler. That's my team. That's your team. That does it for another episode. 101 in the books. Tomorrow we talk fantasy and recap the Monday Night Football action between Chargers and the Broncos. We find out who wins in the DFS plays. Be alert on our Facebook page at Sac City Pod for the DFS plays of the day and the challenge to get yourself in. Until then, though, for my best friend Aaron Mukes, I am me. We will see you tomorrow.
Peace out.